Greetings and welcome to 510. So come on in and let's see what's up for today. Usernames are pretty interesting, and I thought I might talk a little bit about how I got mine. You can probably see from the intro that our house number is 510, and since my name is Russ, 510 Russ kind of fits, but that's kind of only part of the story. This is a fairly unique property, and we wanted to give it its own name, and so 510 was the name that we picked. You may wonder, why did you pick something so mundane as your house number when it could be something like Walnut Place or Monon Farms or something? And the reason goes back to when we were actually looking for houses when Ruth and I got engaged. This was the first house we looked at, and we kind of fell in love with it immediately. And no matter how many houses we looked at, and I think we looked at close to 100, every house that we'd visit we'd go, well, this is really nice, but it's just not 510. And I think the reason we called it 510 in our conversations was because we really sort of already thought of it as ours, and we were a little bit in denial. We didn't want to call it the former owner's house because it would make it sound like it was still hers. I realize that's pretty silly, but that's basically where the name came from. 510 is called an American four-square house because it's basically pretty simple. It's 4 square walls with roofs on top. 510 was built about 1905, and in the early 20th century, 4-square houses were very popular houses in America. Ours is kind of a variant in a couple ways, in that, as you can see over on this wing of the house, there's an extra part that sticks out. Generally, American 4-square houses are pretty plain. The other difference is you can see how wide our house is. The stairway is in the middle rather than off to one side as they traditionally are, and the reason they were narrower and the stairway was on one side was so that the house could fit on a 66-foot wide lot, which was the standard size of early American lots. The outbuilding you see here appears to be a shed, and we certainly use it as one, but that's not what it was originally. As you can see on the inside, there is a chimney, which today just stops at the ceiling, but it used to go right on through the roof. This building was known as a summer kitchen because houses were not air conditioned in those days. People often had separate kitchens that were detached from the house, as this one is, so that they could cook their meals without heating up the house where they had to sleep. Behind 510 is a building that looks like a barn, and that guess is not wrong because originally it was a barn. This was a farm. It's actually outside of town in the early days of Carmel, and in the 1950s the owner of the house converted it into a cottage. The cottage is done in knotty pine, and it's kind of a mess right now because we're actually redoing the kitchen. The kitchen had not been updated since the 1950s, and its appliances and everything were very antiquated, and the kitchen, being knotty pine, was very dark. But as you can see, compared to the rest of the cottage, the kitchen is much lighter now. Out back, our property is quite wide. It fans out from being 1 lot wide to 4 lots wide. It extends for about 330 feet along the Monon Trail, which is a former railway converted into a hiking trail. There's the treeless tree house I built in 2008 and 2009. That woods is ours, and you can see some grass peeking through on the far side of the woods. That's where the next property starts. This is one of my favorite views of 510 because even though it's in the heart of the city, it still looks like an old farmhouse. So that's a tour of the outside of 510. Perhaps next time I'll do a tour of the inside. Thanks for stopping by. See ya.